This is going to be a vlog series about the Star Trek Adventures role-playing game that I'm playing alongside a few mates on twitch.tv/roll4it every Friday. It's going to take a more broad strokes approach, so I'm interested to know your thoughts on this style versus the Layla the Vampire Slayer style that I'm using in the other series of vlogs I'm doing. So have a cup of tea or whatever and relax while I talk to you about the maiden voyage of the USS Revelation and its bridge crew. Commander Shrath Talar is alone on the docked USS Revelation, doing some final checkups in anticipation of its first voyage. He's clearly very proud of this vessel. He designed it himself. He was very bitterly disappointed when the Federation decided that instead of using the Nova class as its attack vessel, it decided that the other one, the one that looks like a pancake. Anyway, that one, the other small one, not the Nova class, would be its attack vessel. Commander Talar is elbow deep in some sort of mechanical part of the engine room or the engineering bay. He gets a priority 1 message from Starfleet. He pops over to the comms console, and Rear Admiral Topek, a member of the secretive Section 31, appears on the screen. She tells him that she has a mission for him. He's not to be part of Section 31, but he is to be their puppet. They allowed him to design his own ship. They allowed him to have extra freedoms in doing so. But now it's the time to repay that. He is to arm and contact a freedom fighter group. She has no weapons for him. He can't tell anyone about it. The only information she can offer him is that a Klingon vessel there to rendezvous with under Captain Tanadra may have weapons that he can trade something for. The weapons can't be connected to Starfleet, and they shouldn't even exist. She basically implies that he's getting no further help from her or anyone else at Starfleet, and ends the call. As Talar is an Andorian, a blue, aggressive, honor-bound species, after the conversation is over, he just dismissively says, "Pink skins." He gets a message saying the new captain of the ship would be arriving soon, so he goes out to the gangway to meet them. Captain Avad, Lieutenants Sakon and Bay approach Talar from the gangway, and they have a very cold first meeting. Commander Shrath doesn't seem to be particularly impressed. He seems very formal with them, introducing themselves. Commander Shrath saying that he's very proud of the ship and it will serve Captain Avad well. Fortunately, Lieutenant Bay, fighting a hangover, just goes around knocking his finger on the wall, hearing the differences and inspecting the handiwork of Commander Shrath. Talar, that's Shrath Talar. First name, last name. I'm going to mix up the names, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Eventually, everyone starts getting settled on board. The bridge crew go to the bridge and prepare for the first berthing? Is that what it's called when a ship leaves the dock? I think that's what it's called. They leave the dock for the first time. That's what they're gonna do. So, just to prepare, Sakon goes to a science console and checks everything over himself. Apparently, Talar had done like 4 tests beforehand, but confusingly, there seems to be a problem with the life support. There's some kind of unexpected organic component in there. Captain Avad sits down, gets his bum print right in there in his captain's chair. He gives the order to make way. Unfortunately, the very excitable and I don't know quite what the word is to describe Janice. Janice, the ensign, the pilot of the ship, who's apparently very good, gets a little bit jittery, and once they're out of dock, very smoothly, and Avad gives the command to go to warp, she doesn't hear like a warp number. So she just picks warp 9 and they burst into hyperspace. Warp, whatever. I'm going to get words wrong, by the way, so you might have to overlook that as well. Instantly to warp 9, the first maiden voyage is off to a slightly rocky start as Captain Avad composes himself, apologizes for not quite giving the right instructions, and tells Janice to move down a couple of notches to warp 6, like the cruising speed of a warp-based ship. Meanwhile, Talar and Sakon seem to be very confused by this life support problem and eventually identify that there's some sort of virus stuck in it. This could get really deadly, especially on a contained space vessel. So what they decide on doing is turning off life support while they fix the problem. Unfortunately, they do have a good idea to kind of get around it, fix the problem, have a secondary system that Talar just spur of the moment jury rigs out of nowhere to support the ship while they turn off the life support. But the problem with turning off life support is that it's a vital, like, first priority system, and when they do it, the red alert goes off. Understandably, Avad instantly contacts the lead engineer and tries to figure out what on earth is going on with his life support. Talar manages to calm him down and just describe the situation and say that it's fine. Now that the thing's turned off, we can flush it through and everyone will be fine. No chance of anyone catching a cold or anything like that. So that problem seems to have been solved. As they're continuing along their way, Avad gets more specific orders. He is to rendezvous and escort a Klingon ship along the edge of Cardassian space to make sure nothing goes awry, and then to deliver the humanitarian food and medical supplies that he has on board his ship to a Bajoran colony that's not too far from where he encounters the Klingon ship by Cardassian space. And if anyone knows anything about Star Trek, then Cardassians and Bajorans, not the best of friends. The journey there is going to take a couple of weeks, so they all decide to just do checks, check in with the crew, figure out what they need, and during this, Sakon figures out that he doesn't quite have the medical supplies that he needs. He requires a hydroponics bay, which isn't a thing aboard this tiny Nova-class vessel. It's way, way smaller than like the Enterprise or anything like that. And this is a problem because there are 80 crew, and the captain thinks, as a very kind of community-driven person, decides that it's not his place to have like a special cabin when everyone else is like hot bunking it, where they've got stacks of sleeping beds and they all have to share various quarters. So he decides to give up his quarters to become this new hydroponics bay so that he can just grab a bunk and Sakon can make all the necessary grown plants instead of just replicating them out mid-air. Sakon can make all the stuff that he needs to supply the Bajorans that they're meeting up with. Commander Talar takes this opportunity and decides that he'll be the overseer of this project. So eventually he quarantines the area so no one else can go in it. He says that the engineering crew doesn't need to worry about it. He'll take this project on himself. So he clears out the quarters and finds some slightly strange erotic fiction books that the captain has on board. One of them, he picks one up and it appears to be called The Betazoid and the Humans That Loved Him, with a picture of like a muscly Betazoid and two humans hanging in either arm on the front cover. So he clears all that crap out so that he can hide the weapons in there. However, during normal duties as tactical security officer, Lieutenant Mako Bay, the Trill and chief of security, is curious about this new installation and how long it's taking. The place is still sectioned off. So Bay confronts Talar and asks what exactly is going on in there. Talar says, you can't go in there, so Bay just talks back like, this is a suspicious thing. I need to know everything that's going on this ship, otherwise how am I going to be an effective security officer? Thank you very much. And obviously 8-Bit Dylan does it way sassier and way better than I do, but that's just how amazing he is. Unfortunately, that sass rubs Talar up the wrong way, so Talar goes to Captain Avad and says, there's kind of a discipline problem on the ship. Perhaps you should, talk to people, enforce the chain of command. But Avad's a little bit less strict. Some might say wishy-washy. Not me, certainly. But Avad says that he trusts his crew to speak truth to power, and that any superior officer is only so through rank, and that it's important that the truth gets through. Instead of respecting the rank, it's more important that things get done properly and morally, as he relies on a very different kind of authority than it appears Commander Talar does. This is all getting pretty rocky. The relationships between Talar and the rest of the officers is a little bit dubious, as Talar has secrets and expected to be able to manipulate and guide this junior captain, as he's a veteran. He has experience that they can draw from, and he could have used that to manipulate and use the authority of captain for himself, for his own means, but it might be a little more difficult than it first appeared. Eventually they meet up with the Klingons and talk to Captain Tanadra, who asks if there's anyone to help repair their sensors. The ship is old. They never used the sensors ever until this one mission now where they've got to scan some stuff. Avad offers to scan the stuff for them, but no, they would prefer to have their own sensors do it. It's their mission that's important to them. So, despite, normal Klingon aggressions, Commander Talar offers generously to go over and fix the sensors. When they beam over there, Mako Bay goes with him just to make sure that it goes okay, because he's encountered some Klingons before, so it might be of use. The security officer that meets them is not impressed. It seems to them that this Klingon officer is just trying to pick a fight, so they just start abusing this Klingon, just saying, look, we need to talk to your captain, and they both eventually break through and say, just because your captain doesn't want to be disturbed, I don't believe you. Let me talk to your captain. I need to go fix your sensors. Talar does his aggression thing, Bay does his hype man thing, and they both break through and manage to get a deal done. Talar moves to the sensor bay, takes a look and says, yeah, I can fix this. As the security officer goes to fetch the captain, eventually the captain arrives, and that's a nice blade you've got there. And he looks at the ceremonial something torb, like a curved blade with a handle here. It's like used as an axe pick and ice pick and weapon of the Andorian people. And they have this weird kind of knife off where the commander of the Klingon ship whips his big knife out, and it's got 2 extra spikes there and a big one down the middle, and he says this is perfectly balanced, and then they hand each other over, and then Commander Talar does this impressive and impossibly quick display of dexterity with the knife and impresses the captain, and he says maybe one day we should fight and have a bout just to see who would win. And the captain just goes, yes, but clearly not meaning it, being so impressed by this display. So the captain pulls Talar aside and says, I hear you need weapons. So Talar makes a deal to grab the weapons in exchange for making their senses better. Seemingly having this captain off guard after his impressive display has enough bargaining power and just pure aggression to even get 6 torpedoes out of the deal. So while Talar is keeping up his end of the bargain by fixing the sensors amazingly, apparently, Bay has a few hours to wait on a Klingon ship. So he asks his new friend what there is to do for fun around here. And it's either fighting or drinking. So they start talking about the fights they've had. The Klingons like, boom, and Mako Bay's like, yeah, you just get right in there, and there's hair everywhere. And they have a right old laugh, so the Klingon slaps him on the back, and Mako Bay is a little bit shaken by this, just like, hey, yeah. So he slaps the Klingon on the back and sends the Klingon flying, and then the Klingon grabs him by either side of the shoulders and just like, yes! Seems to have a huge smile on his face. They have made a new best friend. While this has been going on, they've been moving closer to the Cardassian border. The Klingon ship and the USS Revelation move alongside each other, and in payment for repairing their sensors, Talar secretly transports alongside a bunch of repair equipment for the life support that the Klingons appear to have Federation stuff on their ship for some reason. Whatever. Transporting that across gives him a window to also teleport the weapons that he has traded this repair for into the hydroponics bay. So they spend a little time moving along the Cardassian border on their course to wherever the Klingons are off to. Across the border, they see, or scan, 2 Cardassian ships that appear to be mirroring their movements. Sakon suddenly realizes that they're being scanned. Not that this is unusual or anything, ships scan each other all the time, but the NX, the USS Revelation, is a prototype ship, and the captain feels it's very important that that information or that scan doesn't get into enemy hands, so he orders Sakon to spoof their readings and make them appear smaller than they actually are and not give them a precise readout of exactly what is inside of the Revelation. Especially as it's decked out with massive guns, which might be seen as quite aggressive on the border. After the scan, the Cardassians seem to get bored and leave as the Klingons and the USS Revelation's crew appear to have reached the end of their route near the Cardassian border, and Captain Tanadra appears on the view screen, thanks everyone for their hard work, or, as close to that as a Klingon can get, and cloaks his ship and moves off. Just as Captain Avad is about to give the order to leave this section of space to their next destination, 2 Cardassian vessels appear out of warp across on this side of the border and charge weapons. And that's where the first episode ends. Thank you so much for watching. I'm very interested to hear your feedback about these, and if there's anything you would like to see more or less of, then that would be cool to hear from you down in the comments. But if you do want to catch the streams, they're on twitch.tv/roll for it. So until the next episode, goodbye.